Awesome. Thanks, Vivian. So hi, everyone. It's really great to see all of you. I'm Anjali. I'm a Yale alumni and ambassador, and I'm currently studying at SFU for business, and I'm also the CEO of Youth Helping Youth. Thank you so much for being here today at the Yale Community Day, and welcome to our Youth Entrepreneurship panel. So before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that if you click on the side menu during the session, you will actually leave the session. So unless you open it in another tab, you will have to rejoin, but it's really easy to do so. So we will also have the time for Q&A sessions near the end. So please hold off all your questions until then, and then feel free to write them down in the chat and we'll get to them. And so with all that said, let's get right into the panel. So the first question that I have for you guys is who you are and kind of what do you guys do?
Lucy, you go first.
All right. So I'm Lucy. I'm a senior undergraduate student at SFU, and I finished my Bachelor of Sciences, but decided to continue my studies into marketing and technology. So currently I do study part-time within Innovation and Entrepreneurship and Technology Entrepreneurship program at SFU. But outside of school, I run my own small business within the food sector called Mottaghi Cookies. And I work within product marketing for a few other startups, and I act as an advisor for a couple of nonprofit organizations.
And hello, everyone. I am Arman. I am the CEO of a local company called Lambda Science, and we essentially help home builders and home renovators find building designs that are more energy efficient without an impact on their construction or renovation budget. So better homes for the same price.
Awesome. And so how did you guys get involved in what you're doing now? What's the backstory behind that?
Yeah, for me, because I'm still a student, I'm kind of all over the place, still trying to figure out where my passion lies and what I want to do in the long term. And as you can see, just from my studies, I made a complete pivot from sciences and into business quite recently. And I would say it all comes down to trial and error, just doing as many things as possible, learning about it, and figuring out what you're passionate about. And I realized that my passion was in food and was in arts, and that's what I'm pursuing right now.
Yeah, I think for me it was a similar story that, I think the randomness of it is also appreciated by me. So it was basically a story of me trying to just go into somewhere that I was a little bit uncomfortable with, but I was really passionate about, and that was buildings. But I was never really picturing myself, going on the job sites and, I don't know, picking up a jackhammer or something like that. So I kind of like went into the more technical part of it, and that was energy. And then as I was working on this energy field, I just saw a problem that was just so obvious. But in the meantime, it wasn't really being addressed, or people were talking about it, but I felt like they don't really have the right ideas to address it. And then that's basically how it all got started with me. It wasn't really something that I set out to do, but more like a problem that I saw, and I saw that it really needed to be solved, and just jumped into it, took the opportunity.
That's wonderful. And we just had another one of our panelists join, Mateo. So maybe if you want to start off by doing a little intro about who you are and what you're working on right now.
Yeah, I'm Mateo Pekic. I'm one of the founders of 3DQ Systems. We're a 3D printing automation company and the company was kind of born out of one of my hobbies throughout high school, 3D printing. And now, instead of just dealing with small printers in my basement, we're dealing with hundreds of printers that our customer has, and industrial machines as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And so the next question I have for you guys is, if let's say another person wanted to get into this industry, whether it's the tech industry or it's cookies or whatever it is, what would you suggest for them to prepare themselves for that travel and that journey?
Hmm. That's a good question. So I'm going to start off with tech. If you've never dipped your toes into tech, I can say from someone who is like from sciences and who is more from a business mindset, preparing yourself to work with a different kind of mindset is really important, because you'll realize that a lot of how they learned is very different from how you learned. And so you really need to actually make an effort to communicate in a different way. And I know it sounds very confusing at first, but we actually have sessions specifically for this, where they teach us how to communicate with these mechatronics students, with these computer science students. It's quite interesting. And then when it comes to food, I would say networking is key when it comes to this, and just trying to gather as much information from the industry and learning how to work with influencers would be a vital part.
I can kind of come from the other side of that, being one of the engineers myself. It was definitely taking something I was doing as a hobby, and actually most of our engineers that we've hired were doing 3D printing as a hobby before they started working here, and changing that hobby mindset into a business mindset has definitely been a challenge for some of the people we've brought on. So if you're pursuing something you're passionate about and something that you might already be working on and want to do it as a career, you have to be ready to switch into a different kind of more business job-based mindset rather than purely like something you do for fun in your spare time, especially with things like tech and engineering.
Yeah, because it's so easy. It's so easy to start developing a cool product and trying to sell it, but in fact, you have to do it the opposite way, where you're trying to look for a problem that you're solving and then create a product after or service.
Yeah, it's the build it and they will come doesn't really work that often in business.
Yeah, I would say what worked for me was that I always had a really technical mindset. I was really, it was really easy for me to figure out computers and coding. But when I wanted to go to university, I felt that I couldn't really learn all of the building stuff on my own, the construction industry related things. So that's what I chose as my major, urban planning and also then building science. And then like as it happened, like I was just really passionate about computers, so I learned that on the side, and I could mix the two together and create something that I felt was very unique. So, you know, perhaps like mixing different things now, you know, in the example earlier could be 3D printing and a business, you know, instead of just being a hobby. Or for us, it was, you know, computer science and also construction, building science. I think those are things that really create very unique sets for people who want to enter a new industry. And we have a lot of these potentials in energy, in clean tech, and in general, like whatever that we are trying to solve with our pollution problems, with our ocean, and you know, with our environment.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And so the next question I have for you is, how did the pandemic impact your business, and how have you been able to adapt with that challenge?
I can go first this time. So for us, it has, we are all about silver linings, right? So you see a new reality, and you think about how you can thrive in this new reality. And actually, it might be better for you because now this is new for everyone, and you have an opportunity to get ahead. So before the pandemic, we were 2 full-time people, and right now we are finding our 6th. So we did grow during this time, and not needing an office or not having an office and doing everything inside the internet space, just the online space, really did help in some ways. But you can't really compare it with the situation if the pandemic wasn't there. I have no idea where we would have been. There are some really good things that happened, and in the meantime, like, we couldn't really go on the construction job sites as often as we wanted to. We couldn't really gather around and do team building as often as we wanted to, or travel to new locations to expand our business. I think it was just different. And I've seen the resilience in our small startup community that are around us, that everybody just really quickly tried to adapt and do something different about it.
So for myself, starting off with the cookie business, it was actually started because of the pandemic. I wanted to do something new. I'm always looking for opportunities, and ideas can come and go. So it's really up to you whether you want to hop onto them or not. And for me, I realized, well, I want to give the food industry a shot. Just with my previous background in business building, I love doing this, and I love baking in general. So I decided to form a team to test out different recipes and then start focusing on online marketing. So eventually, once we got the recipe down, we hired a few bakers on the side, started actually formalizing our production. But what I mostly focused on, because of the pandemic, we knew that no one was going to be going outside, going to different cafes. We knew that we really need to push for our online marketing or social media marketing. Having a food background, I also know that Vancouver has a huge food influencer community, all those foodies. And literally, I cannot mention this enough. If you want free marketing when it comes to the food industry, collaborate with all those foodies out there, because you are literally just giving them a free product for the attention of thousands of people out there. And so we didn't spend any money on social media marketing, like doing ads, but rather we spent it mostly on just the content and working with people within as influencers. And yeah, so that's for the Moki cookies. For the tech venture that I'm working on within SFU, now that we're still in the very beginning stages of that, and I would say the pandemic has caused us to slow down by quite a bit, because compared to previous cohorts who went through this program, they started forming solutions, and we're able to talk with a lot more people in person and understand the problem more. Compared to us, we're a little bit stuck. Things have slowed down. It's a lot harder for us to reach different interviewees, but we're still progressing.
Yeah, I guess my answer is similar to a bit of both of yours. Before the pandemic was, I guess, looking at the silver lining of it, sort of even the playing field quite a lot, because a lot of large businesses, because they're big and they're slow, had a hard time adjusting. It opened up a ton of opportunities for startups in our space, and 3D printing, like our tech is both hardware and software, so there's a bit of added complexity there. But we went from 5 people in April to 22 by September, and we, up to this point, we've actually switched the core business model twice, even from being purely B2B. Back in May, just because of the pandemic, a lot of businesses were shutting down R&D or experimental tech, and so we had a couple large contracts just kind of disappear. At the same time, we couldn't go on site to install our machines. So throughout the summer, we started doing like emergency production for the province. We set up a whole bunch of 3D printers locally, and switched to that for a little while. And then by November, we had actually launched a product that would allow people to print automatically at home, like a little micro factory, basically, because with the automation, you don't have to be at home for the printer to work for you, and that would allow those customers to actually start doing emergency production for their local community. So it ended up completely shifting our business model over. However, it's this new model is completely adapted to, like, our team is almost entirely virtual now. We only have 2 people in the office itself just running production. Everyone else is online, and it's definitely been like a massive learning experience just trying to navigate through this, but it's definitely created massive opportunities. And I think just going down the whole idea of like virtual working and like decentralized working, we also found, despite being like a very technical play, that influencers are the people you want to work with to build trust in the community, because and like you said, Lucy, most of them are quite happy. You just send them a product and they're happy to review it. And I think a lot of them don't really realize how much credibility they bring to the table just to have like an independent third-party review. Yeah, as long as your product is good, they're not going to say bad things about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, that's awesome. So I have one more question before we pass it away to any questions from the audience. So if you have any questions, feel free to write them down in the chat and we will get to them shortly. So the last question that I have for you is, what drives you towards achieving your goals? You guys have done absolutely amazing things. You've created these companies, you guys are building, you guys are being resilient against a pandemic. So what drives you when it comes to those challenges, and how do you get past them?
I can go first for this one. I just really like 3D printing, so that's been the driving force for a long time. But when I realized what I had invented in my basement 4 years ago, and of course I hadn't realized it at the time until I spoke to one of the other co-founders at our company, who was our CEO, Steph. She's had like 35 years of business and entrepreneurship experience. Once we realized like what it would mean to deploy our tech at scale to businesses, in our case, 3D printing is extremely environmentally friendly, and then the idea of democratizing manufacturing, giving any hobbyist the ability to produce thousands or tens of thousands of plastic parts on a budget, made a lot of sense, and has only, like, that vision has only been bolstered by the pandemic, when we saw just how fragile having these supply chains that are single points of failure in our entire economic system really were. And so we've sort of been I like to say that our company is fueled by like a 30-year vision, where one day in the far future we'll have printers on the moon and on Mars, self-print or automatically printing bases for us when we get there, and also like a really resilient global infrastructure against manufacturing. So, and I think it's important, maybe not on that level, but to have a unifying vision that you can share with the people you work with, because it contextualizes all the kind of daily struggles that you might go through, or very small, like, frustrating things you might run into, and it can help kind of everyone move in the same direction, especially now when communication hasn't been any harder than it's ever been before.
Yeah, so I guess for me and my team, the driver is, well, the climate crisis. And in addition to that, just, like, this is the stage of our lives that we think we can do something and we want to just be helpful to the community around us. And when we see that there is just so much that can be easily fixed with the use of technology, why not just be helpful and try to make that happen? And I think the unique set of skills that we have brought in wouldn't have done anything without the help of the rest of the people in our industry. It could be the community organizations, or they could be the people who are actually on the sites and doing their works, or the designers who are shifting from that conventional systems of design to what we are giving them. And just seeing that really has, I think, an amplifying effect, that you feel that you are in a part of a really resilient community, and you want to just be a better user or better contributor to it at the same time. And that's one of the major drivers for me.
Yeah. For myself, I think both of you mentioned this a little bit, is there are multiple factors, but one of them is definitely the passion in your idea, passion in your industry, and in the problem that you want to solve. That's a huge part of driving you and pushing you through it, because you believe in it so much and you want to showcase it to other people out there too. Another part is, this is something more like how it drives me, is that I almost see it as a game. You know how in say like RPG games or in games where you can level up different skills. So I find that every time I overcome an obstacle by myself or with the entire team, it feels so satisfying. It feels like, yes, I'm growing, I am learning something new, and I'm developing my skills over time.
That's wonderful. So the next question that we have from the audience is, what are your thoughts on going to university versus starting your own business after high school?
This is not a really easy thing to say, right? It's, for everyone it's different, but I've heard both sides of the arguments, that the first thing is, being university gives you a very safe and formulated way of finding it. Going out there is actually really hard if you are just on your own, but the university gives you resourceful professors and friends who are in the same industry with you. And the other side of this argument is that, well, if I go and work somewhere for free for a few years, after that I may not have a bachelor's, but I have years of experience, and I'm actually financially ahead by just working for free because I haven't paid for university. So I think this really depends on the situation of people and what they want. So I went to university for my bachelor's and master's. Was there times that I felt I'm wasting my time? Absolutely there was. But I don't know how it would have been different without going to the university. It definitely did give me a number of connections and people, and also some foundational knowledge. That wasn't quite a very a specific journey to me. It was a very general set of knowledge, but it was a foundation for sure.
Yeah, adding on to that. So again, university, it opens you up to a lot of opportunities out there. And I know that a lot of people see it as, okay, you go there, get your degree, you learn all these things from lectures, but see university as something more than that. It's going to open you up to multiple connections, multiple support. And I challenge your question and say, why don't you do both? Why don't you go to school and also start your venture on the side? Because when you get stuck on your venture and when you get stuck on your business, you can actually go back to school and then talk to your professors, talk to your TAs, talk to the support group that they have, and enhance your venture on the side. So you might feel like, oh, if I do both of them, it's going to slow down my progress a lot. Yes, it might slow down a little bit, but you know what? It's going to help you build a higher quality build a higher quality business, because you're having that back-to-back support from both ends.
I guess from the other side, I did end up pursuing this straight out of high school. and deferring my university degree. But I would say if you're just looking at starting this, it's important to know like the context in kind of which you're doing this. And by that I mean, I was fortunate enough to have built a pretty robust network through friends and through friends' parents throughout high school. And I think one of the most critical decisions I made right away was to partner with Steph, who has the network and 35 years of business experience. I think if I hadn't done that, in order to get anything close to a network that could support the idea and the vision, I probably would have had to go through and do a master's. The other really important thing to assess is how time critical is your idea. For example, I graduated in 2018, and there were a bunch of studies out there by Deloitte that 3D printing would be automated by 2020, early 2021, that there'd be products on the market out there. And having already had a solution for 2 years at that point, I decided that due to the market timing, if I went and made the leap now, despite potentially having a bit of a worse network than if I'd gone to university for 4 years, I would still have a 2-year head start on the market. So that's something to consider too. But it is definitely like you are giving up quite a few good years of your early 20s if you're going to do that. And I don't know, I'm not sure that I would ever go to university at this point, but I still think of it as like an option to go back to in case I have to learn something or specialize in something to continue the business.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for sharing. And I love the differing perspectives as well. It's always great to get a well-rounded opinion. The next question that we have from the audience is, what is it like being a young entrepreneur, and how do you make people take you seriously?
This is a really funny one. In the manufacturing industry, the demographic is like dads, like old, like 40 to 55-year-old white guys. And I'm like, at our first trade show, I wasn't 20 yet, and my co-founder, she's a woman, and so we had like a lot of difficulty trying to get people to take us seriously. And I'm not sure so much about like software and tech, but in manufacturing there is still a very like sexist culture, and if you're not part of the in group, it's very hard to get people to take you seriously. So I did find some of the virtual meetings have actually been a bit of a benefit, because you can like, I don't know, it's harder to tell people's age over camera, or you can call people and so they don't see you and they don't know your age. And as long as you establish like with the first contact that you actually know what you're talking about, then people really don't care about who you are. But you have to work a bit harder to establish the credibility with them.
Yeah, I think, sorry, go on, Lucy.
Oh, no worries. You can go ahead.
Basically for us, it has been, for me, it has been that, you're new to the industry, you're an outsider. Actually, like somebody told me that you're the new kid in the block or something. But so when you are just new to this and you are just trying to open up your own corner inside whole industry, of course, like people, no matter like what, they just don't know you and don't haven't had any experience with you to see if you're a reliable person. And that's just hard. Like it's not about you being young or being anything. It's just about just being an outsider, and wherever you enter, that's the case. And then I guess after like 2 years that they just see your face often and they realize that you're not going anywhere, things get, it gets a lot easier because they just basically figure out that they are either like just help you get to where you're gonna get, or you're gonna get there on your own. And they people want to be helpful. Like if they have that element of trust and that element that you're not going anywhere, they do want to help you, and I've seen that.
I love that. Continue bothering them until they can dream about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. For on my end, I would have to say it comes down to due diligence and how you present yourself. And I think in business, most people would know this saying that you have to wear different hats when you're meeting different people. It's the same thing when it comes to your ventures. And so the way I'm presenting myself right now is completely different how I present to my friends, to my family. And you have to understand that difference, because if you want people to take you seriously, you need to bring out that tone, that professionalism, and you want to showcase that, hey, this is something that you're serious about, that you want to develop, and if you are taking it seriously, so will they.
Thank you, guys. Those are some absolutely great tips that you have just given to our audience. The next question is, a lot of you have started a business at a very young age. So do you have any regrets with that?
Not really. Why are we talking at the same time? Lucy, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, what kind of regrets can you have with this? Maybe you would regret spending time on like starting a venture, or maybe feeling like, oh, it failed. But even then, I think that's when you should have a different perspective on it, because at the end of the day, whenever you start something, a venture, an organization, treat it as if it's a learning process. And it is, because whether it fails or it succeeds, you're constantly learning something new from it. You're constantly developing your skills, whether it's soft skills or technical skills. You're growing along with the venture. So I can't think of anything that you should feel like regretful about. Yeah, but I do understand that it's a fear from a lot of people, and it prevents many from starting their idea just because they're afraid of failure, or they're afraid of the obstacles that may come their way.
Yeah, I think, sorry, to add to the question, in terms of regrets, it's like if you could have spent that time doing something else, like fighting for like a corporate job or something like that, or making money or like a stable job. So in terms of that, but yeah, you can go ahead, Arman.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what I understand. Like so for example, I could have had the option to go and become a web developer in a company, or go and become a professional engineer in an engineering firm. I could actually do both, and I think the paycheck would have been really good to start with. But I would actually think that, well, this is the only stage in my life that I actually could like jump into what I'm doing right now and just spend like all of my resources on it. And look, listen, I'm not gonna glorify it. It's really a scrappy. Like it's really a scrappy for a long period of time, longer than you hope it is. But I wouldn't change it with a thing. Like I think the career growth that I've had over the last 3 years have been absolutely way more than anything that I could have done with those good paycheck jobs. But people have very different expectations. Some people like to build a good life for themselves, like maybe play it really safe, embed themselves in the industries. And then like at a later stage when they have their life figured out to some degree, and start their own entrepreneurial journey. So would be different, but I think the way I would approach it is that what is it that you can do right now that you don't want to do in the future, or you can't do in the future? That way you make sure there are no regrets, or if there are, like there are against bigger regrets.
Yeah, just adding to that, I kind of want to emphasize your point on it's definitely a commitment that you have to really sit down with yourself and decide, is this what I want to do? Is this what's going to make me happy? And one of the benefits of being really young when you do this is that you have very few other life commitments, and you're able, or it depends on everyone's situation, but generally when you're younger, you're able to take on more risk because you're either less independent or you still have family to support you. And I mean, I guess my perspective on it was even going to university is a bit of a risk because you're taking on a whole ton of debt, and then you have to see what the job market looks like when you go out. Like, I know the generation before me, they were entering the job market during 2008, 2009 when it was terrible, and perhaps that risk that they took in terms of student loans took a bit longer to pay off. So there are risks on both sides, and you just have to evaluate the situation you're in. At least that's how I decided. And of course, like, I would prefer to follow my passion, but you do have to weigh the risks against it. And it is a huge commitment. Like, I don't necessarily say I regret it, but it's going to make an impact on your lifestyle, your social life, all of that stuff for the next like couple of years until you really get it going. So yeah, you have to, I think if you go through and decide that yes, this is really for you, I think you'll probably come out of it not feeling any regrets. But if you're unsure and you dive into something without fully thinking it through, then it's possible.
Those are some wonderful answers. Thank you, guys. So the next question that I have for you is, how did you get the capital to start your business, especially when you are so young? Was it parents? Did you find investors? How was that process like for you?
You can, depending on how fast you need to make the play, you can start really small. Like, it's quite easy nowadays. Like, you know, a long time ago, if you wanted to get something made custom overseas, you would have to work with a company that would connect you to 5 other middlemen that would eventually connect you to a factory overseas. But nowadays you can just go on AliExpress or Alibaba and say, hey, can you make this custom for me? I need like 10 prototypes. You can directly outreach to people online, like influencers, one-to-one. You don't need a team to do that, and you can pretty much bootstrap your. I would say with the internet, it's super easy to just bootstrap your sales from pretty much nothing. So that being said, it is worth asking friends and family to help you out with some starting capital, because that just accelerates things. But I think with all of these like platforms out there online, the barrier to entry has been lowered quite a lot, where even saving on your own time, like from a summer job, maybe save a couple $1,000s, you can totally get started with something.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. When it comes to, say, my food business, I did invest around $1,000 initially into it, but looking back on it, there were a lot of times where I felt like, oh, I didn't actually have to invest in this so early on. I could have started with a very basic and maybe a few hundred at most, just to buy the necessary equipment to start up that business and to get production running. And then, of course, finding the right people or the right co-founders who are willing to just literally make the cookies and produce it with you without paying them helps so much. And then it really comes down to marketing. But of course, with social media being so accessible, you can do that completely for free without having to pay for any advertisement. Now, on the other hand, for my tech venture, I was lucky enough for it to be part of the SFU program. And so we are supported by, again, this goes back to, opportunities within school, because we are then supported by the Charles Chang Institute of Entrepreneurship, and they provide us around $750 per person to work on our venture.
Yeah, one thing I want to highlight is that do not get ideas from Shark Tank or what you see on YouTube. That's show business, right? Just like in the movies when they show computer hacking and there are two people typing on the keyboard and they're like, yeah, let's infiltrate their mainframe and stuff. They are just using this really cheesy language. Those stuff are exactly that for a startup funding. Nobody cares. Nobody will come and cut you a check for $3 million when you go to them with an idea. It's essentially especially tougher outside of Silicon Valley and outside of people who are not already alumni of Google or Facebook or Apple. So it's gonna be you just figuring out your finances and figuring out how long you can avoid paying yourself. And that is the first source of revenue, is just by not taking anything. And then there are definitely ways of being scrappy about it. And if you are in the manufacturing business, I think that's not really my area, but you can find efficient ways of working what you want to do. Or just for us, it's just do something really simple, really small, show some value, and then go to customers and be like, hey, we have done this, can you help us go to the next stage? But venture capital is something that is just basically very specific to results, and they are they like their money a lot. So it's not really easy to just come to them and get a check with just an idea, unless you are something really special.
Yeah, maybe just to add, the most expensive thing that you can give away in your company is equity. So if you decide before you've even proven something to give 30% to Kevin O'Leary of your company, and then eventually your company ends up being worth millions of dollars, 30% of that is going to him. And you have to consider how much VCs are actually are they contributing 30% of the effort if they're just meeting with you once a week for a couple hours. Yeah, so it's important to consider that for sure.
Awesome, thank you guys. Those are some great and helpful tips. So we are approaching our last few questions. One question that I've been getting quite a bit is, how do you guys just balance your life? How do you balance whether you're going to school, whether it's life, or whether it's your business? How do you balance all those different aspects and avoid burnout?
People are different, right? Each person has a strength and a weakness. For me, my strength is that I don't get easily stressed out. No matter what the deadline is, no matter what the stakes are, I always have some control. And I also enjoy my working a lot, and I can spend a lot of time just doing my work. But my weakness is, for example, that I'm not a very social person. So going into a lot of social functions, I can't do that easily. And we have different activities that we do, but I just get tired after some point. So I am putting myself in the middle of a team that covers me in those areas. If I want to just basically just take a step back and ask people to go and do user interviews or be with our customers, I can easily do that. I think burnout is not a blanket thing. It's about you feeling trapped into what you don't enjoy. But if you feel like you have a group of people around you who are supportive and can help you, that really helps. But in the other stage, as an entrepreneur, you are the only limiting factor for your success. There is, as long as you can put as much effort as you can, then you can succeed with that. And that mindset can sometimes go in the wrong direction, that people feel like they have to put as many hours as possible, sleep as little as they can. And that's really not true. Like, definitely, like, putting a lot of hours and putting a lot of commitment definitely is important, but more is never better. It's more about working smarter. Sometimes you can actually, have some contractor or somebody else to do some work for you, or just like be smart enough to avoid it. And also know where your comfort zones are, and try to avoid them to some degree. So if you are really comfortable with design, don't want to spend a whole day like designing something. Like, go to the places that you are not comfortable with. Yeah, essentially, I think with just like bringing the support around, and controlling like what your capacities are, I think that definitely can navigate that issue.
Yeah, so I completely agree with knowing your capacity and knowing your capabilities. With that said, I've also been on the opposite end where it's like, I was procrastinating. So I'm a procrastinator. I'm going to be completely honest here. You will find me awake at 3 a.m. still working on something that should have been handed in maybe like a few hours ago. And I think a lot of people think that, oh, if you're able to handle all of these projects or all these different aspects in your life, that you must be great, fantastic time managers. But like, at the end of the day, it's more about prioritizing. You can squeeze as many things into your schedules, into your to-do list as possible, but knowing, hey, am I giving myself enough time for this? Is this a priority right now? I think that's another step to time management. So you have the basic foundation here where, hey, you actually have a to-do list, you have a schedule going on, you know what to prepare for the next week, but you also have another level where then you're able to like know what your goals are for each day, know how much time you'll need, because everyone needs different time for different assignments or different tasks. And then the third tier, I would say, is actually being able to stick with them and accomplish that, which of course it takes a lot of self-discipline, and it takes just taking it step by step to train yourself and commit to yourself, saying that, hey, I can actually achieve each of these and achieve my goals with these time periods.
Yeah, I'm also of the mind that burnout happens. It's a function of unhappiness. So if you're banging your head against the wall doing things you don't want to do, you'll burn out super quick. Or if you're overloading yourself with hours, even if it's stuff you do like to do, you'll come to resent it after a certain period of time. So definitely making sure as much as possible and as soon as possible you structure your team or support network around people who like doing the things that you don't like doing, and vice versa, you can cover for those other people on your team. It's definitely a good way to mitigate that sort of unhappiness. And yeah, I mean, one saying that we have is if you think this is hard, it only gets harder. And I can say that's been true for like the 2 years that my company's existed. So like if you're finding yourself burning out within the first couple of months of trying to working on this, like maybe try to take a step back, evaluate what's causing you to burn out, and then because you don't want to establish that whether it's a workload, whether it's how you prioritize things, you don't want to establish that as a thing, like a foundation for how you're going to run your business over the next 2, 3, 4, 10 years of your life, right? So it's important to kind of look at everything you're doing and yeah, take kind of frequent breaks to reflect on what could change to make it easier on yourself. I don't know, maybe it's also a function of just being lazy. Like, you want to only do the fun stuff, so you have to figure out a way to either get around the non-fun stuff or have someone else do it. But I think it's pretty effective.
Oh, I want to add on to that really quickly because that just reminded me of an advice I heard from one of my mentors is that always, if you want to have a work-life balance and you're finding yourself working too much and you're finding yourself stressed out, make sure to have something that you look forward to doing once a week. So it could just be watching movies with your friends. It could be, working on your art project, whatever it is, but have something that you actually look forward to once a week.
I definitely agree with all of this great advice. On that note, what do you guys do to relax and have fun? What does that look like for you?
I guess 3D printing and electronics tinkering used to be my hobby before it became my job, so I had to find something else. I found exercise to be pretty important, just in terms of your normal well-being. So I've definitely got into things like biking, playing piano. I started teaching myself a few years ago, and just anything that is as different as from your work as you can think of that you enjoy doing. I find it's really helps with mental fatigue and stuff like that.
For me personally, it's also exercise. Exercise is huge just to release that stress, just to release your brain. And for me, I specifically do a lot of hip hop. I do pole dancing too, and I do area yoga. So whatever crazy things that I can do like that's exercise based, I love to give them a shot. And it taps into a different part of my brain where I don't normally use when I'm working or when I'm studying. With that said, music is also a huge part of my life. Just taking the time out of your day, giving yourself 15 minutes to listen to music or to meditate can really just be the 15-minute break that you need to start off your entire day the right way or to help you relax for the night.
Yeah, for me it's also exercise, and with COVID, being amongst friends is really hard, which sucks. But you kind of find different ways of doing, I guess, like online gatherings and being amongst people to just have a kind of a break from work. But yeah, generally the other thing is that you're sitting down all day and you want to do something standing, or you want to just go outside and have a nice run or go on a trail. So definitely for me, the difference comes from the way I'm positioned instead of just being at the desk, just something that's outdoor and helps me just get my body also moving a bit.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. So that does conclude our panel for today. Thank you so much, speakers Lucy, Mateo, and Arman, for being here today and sharing all your great insights and advice with our Yale students. And thank you, Yale students, for being here today and joining this session. I invite you guys to check out the other sessions as well as connect with the speakers via LinkedIn. Please stay here on the main session for an afternoon stretch break with innovative fitness. Thank you once again, and we hope that everyone enjoys the rest of Yale Community Day. Bye.